You are listening to the You Empowered podcast. Through each episode, we aim to leave you feeling a little more empowered in your business. Some episodes feature heart topics like mindset, failure, struggles, and successes, while others get into the head of business, such as marketing, strategy, systems, money, and more. So if any of that has your interest piqued, then keep on listening. Hey friends and business owners, buckle up because this episode is going to be absolutely business changing, especially if you are listening and you are a service-based business provider and you're someone who frequently has to do connection or clarity calls when prospecting potential clients. What we're going to talk about today, I feel, is so incredibly needed and yet very overlooked when it comes to being a service-based business provider. So on this episode of the You Empowered podcast, I sat down with sales coach Annie Ruggles, and she's going to teach all of us about the process of non-sleazy selling. And Annie partners with coaches, healers, and other helpers that she coins are ask-avoidant do-gooders who really spend their days determined to serve and help others. Hi, it's me, but who struggle to include themselves in their own success. And I know you guys can totally relate to that. So as Annie puts it, if you feel gross when you go to put a price on your product, your service, your gifts and talents, then Annie is your girl. So throughout our fun conversation, we really get into redefining the process of sales in your business, the formula for success on sales calls, tactics to shift your selling mindset, and seriously guys, all the sales things. Now, I want you to be sure to stay to the end of the episode because Annie is actually going to be sharing some really fantastic resources for you to help you further with selling and sales and all of that. Now, this is definitely a business-minded episode, so I do recommend pause here, go grab something to write with and a favorite beverage, and then cozy up and listen in. So here is my conversation with Annie. So Annie, much like many entrepreneurs, your journey into kind of what you do now with sales coaching was really not linear. So before we talk all about non-sleazy sales today, I really just want you to tell the audience a little bit more about your journey into becoming a sales mentor and really what inspired you to step into this specific space to help other business owners.
You know, it's really goofy in that if you look at it now, if you look at the trajectory that I've been on, it seems like I fell into the family business in that my mom was a motivational speaker. My dad was a business strategist. My grandpa was a used car salesman. My grandma was a writer, and it goes on and on and on, right? Like, of course, this is what I'm doing, but I never, ever, ever expected to be here. Ever. I have a musical theater degree. Like, I thought that I was going to be, teaching art to little kids and singing on the side. Like, that's what I really wanted, and that's what I really thought. But while I was spinning that up, I was like, look, something's got to put food on the table. I'm, fresh out of college. What am I going to do? And right around then, this new career choice emerged called being a life coach. And back then, nobody really knew what it meant. Right? We were like, anybody, it's whatever it is. It is what it is. And so I was like, cool. I'm a weird, quirky 20-something. I'm going to be a life coach. And that's what I did for a while. But what happened was people were hiring me. And so my business was profitable, but what I realized was that people were hiring me to tell them how to help their new coaching endeavors be profitable because we were all these young, brand new baby coaches. We were all trying to figure it out. And so I did that for many, many years, marketing and branding specifically for coaches. And along the way, I started working with a lot of energy healers and empaths of all kinds. And what I realized that I hated the idea of selling as I understood it, Joanne. I freaking hated it. And you and I have talked about that separately. Like, I'm in sales and you're in money, and people have a lot of issues with both. And so I never expected to wind up in this space. But what I noticed in myself, in my own business and in my clients' businesses, is that there is a profound difference between marketing and selling. And if we don't actually ask, we cannot receive. And so I got obsessed with the idea of how can good people compete without cheapening that goodness of themselves. And now here we are with the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy.
Yeah, when you say sales, and my husband does sales, which is really ironic that I'm about to say this, but when you say sales, I always think of like the sleazy car salesman, right?
Yeah.
Or the MLM marketers. And I'm definitely not dissing MLMs. I think that there are a lot of great companies out there, but they have certain companies of certain tactics that people really look frown upon because they're pushy and they're shovey and they're uncomfortable and they're sleazy and all these different things. So but we have to really fully understand that this is how we make money in our business. So I want you to kind of go into, you've already mentioned it a little bit already, talking about non-sleazy sales and how are those tactics and approaches in your business, the things that you teach, different from what we think of as that sleazy car salesman.
That's so funny because my grandpa was a used car salesman.
Yeah, and you just said that.
And he was not an empath, right? So I work a lot with like human spongy do-gooder. I just want to help people. My grandpa was not that. So let me be very, very clear that, a walking beacon of empathy, he was not. But he was a really wonderful person. And he was incredible at listening and prescribing. And so in his example, what I have been able to learn and reflect and now teach is that what made my grandpa an incredible salesman to the point where people came to his funeral that he sold cars to 30 years before he died.
Wow.
What made him incredible was his ability to listen and prescribe and therefore only deliver things that were the right choices for the families he sold to. He was not trying to sell the worst car on the lot and paint it up like the best. He was not trying to get someone who was cash strapped and struggling to feed their family into the most expensive car on the lot. He was not trying to sell anyone more than what they need. And I think that is the fundamental difference between sleazy selling as we see it and fear it and non-sleazy selling. Sleazy selling says, I will force this person through manipulation, tricks, lies, whatever I have to do, right? Over friendliness, like with some of the stuff that you were talking about in the negative MLMs. I'm going to arm twist this person into buying what I want them to buy. Buying what I want them to buy. If you take the I out of it, I'm going to listen, I'm going to prescribe, and if it is the right choice for you, I'm going to sell you what you need and only what you need. That's an entirely different ball game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to bring my husband up again because he's a fantastic salesman, but he does exactly what you were just talking about, the listening and the prescribing, right? He lets the customer just talk and go off on a tangent and share everything that they want to share. And and then of course he's engaged and he's listening and he wants to hear about what it is that they're in. But then he can kind of decipher, right? He can pick out, he can hear and understand within that what it is that they're truly saying and kind of what they really need versus just saying, okay, he's an arborist. Okay, we're just going to cut down all these trees. We're just going to clear cut. No, he's I want to save certain trees. I want to hear what he's we have to create a balance between, nature. And that is what I do through what I do with my selling. So I love that. And I love that you have that such a personal example with your grandfather. And
he and I were so different that it's so funny that I'm following in his footsteps. He was this very stoic, quiet German, and I am this loud, flaily, Italian-looking Muppet. But the truth of it is, if you look at selling as an act of service and specifically as an act of problem solving, then it frees you up from the risk of hurting someone by selling them something that they do not want or need.
Yeah. And I don't know, in your experience working with different clients, and what we were just talking about with like, it's really important to kind of just listen. And I know that I've definitely been on consult calls over the years with different clients where I felt like I had to prove my worth by just saying a lot of things. And then what ended up happening is I'm alienating the client because they're like, okay, like she's just talking in circles and not ever really getting to the ask and the sale. So I know specifically because I have a lot of coaching friends that I'm not alone in this, and we really struggle with asking for and charging our worth and doing it in a way that really feels authentic and aligned. And so this is the thing that you coach on. And so for people who are listening, I really wanted to get from you, what are some just like easy and simple start strategies that you help people to do sales better while also really being genuine and keeping to their values and their ethics?
So I love that your show goes back and forth between, like emotional life, brain topics and strategy, business, money topics, because I think that this transition really is both. There's a mindset shift and a strategic piece, right? Yeah. So the mindset shift we've already sort of touched on, which is redefining what your definition of selling is and what your definition of selling is not. Because is sales a manipulation? Abso-freaking-lutely. But so is watching a movie. So is reading a book, right? Like, what is one of your favorite pieces of pop culture? Just off the top of your head, it could be anything.
You did an episode recently, someone, and their pop culture media was Schitt's Creek, and so I started watching it again. And I would say mine is probably Outlander, but we'll go with Schitt's Creek.
Okay, but here we go.
Either one.
Schitt's Creek, Outlander, either one. It works with everything. When Schitt's Creek makes you laugh, or Outlander makes you clutch your chest in that romantic fear feeling, that show is manipulating you. That show wants you to have that emotion because you want to have that emotion. You watch Outlander to feel. You watch Schitt's Creek to feel or to laugh. Right? So I'm not going to tell you that selling is not a manipulation. It is. You are helping someone come to a decision, and in order to do that, they need to think and feel certain things. But the difference is I'm not dragging anybody where they don't want to go.
Right.
And I am honoring the person on the other end of the transaction the whole time, because that is the kicker. As long as you remember that the person that you're selling to is a person and not a paycheck and not a wallet, you will not mistreat them. That is the most important mindset piece. Remember, you are a servant serving people, real people, not numbers, not transactions, no, people. Okay, that's the mindset shift. Are you going to require them to feel things and think things? Yes. In that aspect, selling is really coaching. We are coaching them toward making the right choice for them that they have outlined to you. They are coming to you to solve the problem. You're not inventing their need, number one. And on the strategic aspect, you brought this up before too. I've listened to hundreds of sales calls to the point where I have a term for this, because it's really the sales equivalent of word vomit. So I just call it sales vomit. And that is what so many of us do on these calls, because we feel like we have something to prove and we have to be professional and we have to show up with everything perfect in a row. And, we have to deliver our practice lines and make sure we get all of our value propositions in and blah, 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 blah. And that stuff is important. But what happens is we get into these situations with these people who are waiting to hear what we can do for them. And we just sales vomit at them all of our facts, all of our figures, our story, the intimate details of our lives, whatever it may be. We take up the entire sales call talking at people, and then at the end we put a price tag on it and expect them to make a decision. No. We have to do what your husband does, which is listen.
Yep.
The great irony of my life is that I am a very loud, flaily person who gets paid to remind people to shut up.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But it's true.
It is.
sales situation, if you struggle on those calls, it's because you have been trying to cram a spiel down somebody's throat instead of knowing your non-negotiables, like your prices and your offerings, knowing who you serve, how you serve them, and how you serve them differently, being able to speak to those things, and in between, shutting your beautiful mouth so the client can tell you what you need to know in order to help them make a decision. If you babble the whole time, you have no R&D to work with, and they have no questions answered, so only confusion. That is where most of the sales vomit, I'm just going to do my best to legitimize myself conversations go horribly awry.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you're saying is just so incredibly powerful. And I think that and I think that we've learned a lot about sales through popular media and popular culture. So like we think, okay, well, in order for me to make any money, I need to sell, sell, sell. And I need to just look at these people as a price tag. But I think it's really important, like when we shift from I to you, and I don't remember where I heard it, but a couple of years ago when I was doing a lot of like copy editing and doing a lot of like sales pages and things, they're just like, you need to talk about it from the perspective of the consumer. Like if you're selling an online course, you need to talk about how it's going to benefit them. And yet I spent all this time and my first course failed because I was just talking about the features of the course, not how it was specifically going to help get people from point A to point B.
Absolutely, because there are emotional buyers, there are fact-based buyers, and most people are in the middle of those two. If you focus on the facts more than the why, if you focus on the facts more than the transformation, you're going to lose the emotion of the buyer who is craving that change, who is craving that transformation. We can't hide that from them. But also on the same point, if we're selling a bunch of intangibles like fulfillment, for example, if we get stuck in how they're going to feel, but not what they're going to get out of the situation, then it's so much harder to turn around and ask for a price on that thing because what I basically sold them is a cloud. Right? So
Yes.
It's really important when you're selling to temper your stuff with both. Make sure you're telling the story and the emotional gooey goodness and the raw fact and the ROI. They're both important to every single buyer, some more than others.
Yeah, and I would say that I've read a lot of sales pages for different online courses and programs over the years, and I can definitely like think back and recount to some that were certainly more of just like the what would you call that? They're more like scientific, like this is the data that you'll receive if you go through this program, and then others are just like so dreamy. And they have, all the ties to the emotions of like how you want to feel. And you're like, yeah, but what do you actually get out of it? So you have this double-edged sword of like really having to figure out what that looks like and meeting in the middle so that you're attracting, not only are you attracting your ideal client, but you're really hitting on both of those points that you were just talking about.
And I think the other double-edged sword that's involved in this for a lot of my clients, because a lot of my clients are very small businesses and therefore they are the figurehead, right? The other double-edged sword here is the blessing and the burden of being encouraged by your industry to tell your story and what that means, to make it personal, right? Because I've also made a lot of enemies by talking about how the fact that memoirs are pretty damn boring because they don't tell me how to change things for me.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want a memoir. I want a self-help book. I want you to tell me what you did so that I can emulate it in real facts, in real figures, in real steps. I want a workbook and I want to get it done. I don't want to just be inspired by your story. If I wanted to be inspired, I'd watch Outlander. Right? Honestly, truly. But also on the flip, you go to these pages and you'll see on sales pages, which are my favorite thing, my freaking obsession. I adore them so much because they're coaching. And you see some people feel the need to lay themselves bare on a sales page. And like their about page, they are telling like extremely intimate, painful stuff. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought you were trying to sell me copywriting. Like, what is even happening here? But then also on the flip, you see people who feel the need to remove themselves entirely and just say, it's not about me, it's not about me, it's not about me, it's not about me. But we still need to know who you are so that we know that we can trust you. That trust piece is important. So that's your other double-edged sword.
Truly.
Too much emotion or too much fact in your own story and who you are in relation to what you serve.
Like, this just stresses me out thinking about it, because I know from my own business experiences that there is just such a push-pull between navigating all of that and figuring it out. But I think obviously, you know, my business is still fairly new, and I think a lot of that does come with simply repetition and doing it, and also just like figuring out who your ideal customer is over time. You know what I mean? You're really fleshing out what works and what doesn't. So you talked a little bit about the mindset, right? But what are some other strategies or things, suggestions that you could just talk about to really help people, you know, make the ask and do the sale a little bit better?
Do not assume going into a selling situation that they're going to say no. I know that sounds like the worst and most ridiculous advice in the world. Why would any of us intentionally go into something assuming that they're going to say no? But we do. When I listen to these calls, you hear so many apologies creep in, like, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy. I'm already telling you I'm not worth your time. What? There is a place for gratitude in these calls. Thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to tell you about what I'm doing and see if we can work together. Same gratitude, no apology.
Right.
And so that kind of stuff is like, if you go into it with the mindset of, I'm inconveniencing this person, they don't want to be sold to, I'm going to embarrass myself, and ultimately they're going to say no. Get that out of your subconscious however you can. It doesn't belong there. Okay? The goal of each and every sales call should only be to answer each other's questions and then mutually assess fit. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. So go in ready to ask and answer. Do not go in apologizing. Thank you so much for sparing your beautiful, precious time. Or when you get, this is the next one on that same vein. If you get an objection is not necessarily just the precursor to an rejection. An objection means that you have interested someone enough, you have piqued their curiosity enough for them to realize that they are either experiencing resistance or they've discovered something they don't know. So an objection is really, truly an opportunity to dig deeper and answer their question better and get to know them deeper so that you can serve them more. It is not a red flag. Oh, well, they asked me how I'm different than my competitors, and that automatically means that they're already comparing me to them and they know I'm not as good, so they really just want to hear me say it. No, that's not what's going on here. They're saying, I'm really starting to consider you, but I have some doubts. Please tell me more. Right? So objections are opportunities. They are not doors that are about to slam in your face. So the first one is watch your apologizing. The second one is objections are opportunities. Lean into them, not away from them. Don't argue them. Right? And the other one is, and this is the most important, and I'm so curious to think about, or to hear about what you think about this with your money background. But one of the main things that I had to personally stop doing was selling and pricing from my own bank account. Meaning, if I didn't think that I would pay something in that given moment, then that was too expensive. And so even if that was the price, I would apologize for that price in my tone or in my babbling after, because it's just too expensive. What is expensive or what is cheap to your client, you are not going to know.
Yes.
The severity of their need, the severity of their desire, you are not gonna know. I had a client sign up for my program yesterday because she got her tax return. And she was like, I finally have money to be able to afford your program. I'm so excited. What if I had gone to that client months ago and been like, can you not afford this? Is it too expensive? Hold on, let me slash the price for you. She didn't want that. She didn't ask for that. She said, I'm so excited that my tax return came because then I could invest in your program.
Yeah.
If I ask myself on any given day what I would pay for sales consulting, most days that would be zero. I don't need it. But before my next launch, if you ask me how much I would pay on sales strategies to get other eyes into my business and to make sure I'm not going to make some costly mistakes, I would pay more than my rate. It depends on the day. But our relationship with our own value should not creep in insecurity in the form of selling. You don't know that person's life. That person could have bought a purse yesterday that they intend to use once and spend $3,000 on. You don't know. Or the sleazy marketers will tell people that's not expensive, it's cheap. That person's dog could have needed vet surgery the day before. You know, we never know when that's coming, and that's always thousands of dollars. We don't know. So your personal ideas of what is expensive or cheap does not belong in that conversation. Just make sure that your rates are industry competitive and feel like they are the right amount for what you deliver comparatively. But it is not about what you would pay or whether you think you're over or undercharging. No, it's not.
It's funny that you brought that up because I actually coach a lot on that when I coach on even just like working with, different friends who are business owners on like charging their worth. And one thing that I say, I wanted to bring it back to kind of the top of what you were saying about you just don't make any assumptions. Because I think when we assume that, a client can't afford us, then we're taking away their power, because there might be clients who are coming to us that have to put our services on a credit card. They're not able to afford it, but because they have, like you were saying, such a desire, they want to make change, they want to undergo that transformation, they're going to figure it out and they're going to be willing to do whatever they need to do in order to work with us. And so I think that when you do that, when you assume what they can or cannot afford, you're disempowering that person. And that's never a good place to be.
No, it's not our business.
Yeah.
It's not. It's really, truly, dearly not our place to tell them how to spend their money or what to spend it on. Like I've seen really sleazy salespeople break people down financially and then tell them to go get another credit card. That's not my job. It is not my job to tell you to go get another credit card. But also on the flip side, if you decide that it's the right choice for you to put it on a credit card, it's not my job to say, I'd really prefer you not do that. It's not my job. It's not my business. My job is to deliver value at the set price point that I have promised. My job is to deliver.
Yep.
As long as I am delivering, what you do with your money, which I hope is make a strong, sound financial decision. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, yes. But at the same point, that's your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's your life. I don't need to know your facts and figures. I don't.
Truth be told. And I think it's another important point that you brought up is simply that we do not need to, like, if we're not willing to pay for something, doesn't necessarily mean that other people would not pay that price for it. And I actually hear this all the time because I have a good friend of mine. She's a fellow makeup artist. And so she's like, well, I would never pay $500 to have someone do my makeup. Well, naturally, because you would do
your own makeup.
Exactly. But she was just saying, like, with her pricing, she's really struggled because she would never pay that for makeup. So she can't see the value of her charging that. And I'm like, yeah, but you have a decade of experience and you have all of these like identifiers of what makes you so valuable. Like you were talking about value. It's like all these things that you bring to the table. That's what people pay for. They're not necessarily paying for the hour of your time. They're paying for the value and the expertise and the experience that you provide. And I think a lot of business owners really get wrapped up in time for money when it's really value for money.
And if you find your happy medium, if you find that sweet spot, that's all that matters, because you truly can kill it in business at any price point. I am intentionally low ticket. But in order to be intentionally low ticket, I have to market and sell to a lot of people in order to make my business work. So all of my marketing, all of my sales tactics, my social media, everything else has to be me to many, 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 many people, right? There are people out there making a killing, charging more than me. And there are people out there making a killing, charging less than me. And that is true for every single one of us. You can find the right method, the right solution at any price point. You just have to make sure that the price point matches what you're delivering.
You can't see me, but I'm just sitting here shaking my head because it's so true. And again, when I coach on worth and I primarily work with like a lot of my clients are like service-based business owners or solopreneurs, you know, so we naturally start talking about, you know, our worth, and that comes up again and again for them. So one of the things that you had put, now, first of all of this is absolutely incredible information. Like I've been taking a ton of notes and I cannot wait to share this with everybody. Yeah. But, you know, there's something that you had said in your intake form was about sales baggage. So I want you to elaborate a little bit on what that is and really how it may be impacting our ability to make more money in our businesses.
Oh, sales baggage. And I certainly had it. Like, I'm laughing. I want everyone to know, I'm going to reiterate this from the very beginning. I was the most sales avoidant, baggaged person on earth. Okay. So if you are sitting there with sales avoidance or sales baggage right now, number one, it's not permanent. Number two, it's not your fault, because we have all been sold to really horribly. And most of us at this time in our career have also had to sell something for someone else that we did not want to be selling. Those are the two main forms of sales baggage. The first main form of sales baggage is the hurt, the pain, and the challenge of that you have encountered by being sold to against your will, sold to badly, or pressured into buying something that was not the right choice for you, or proved not to be as valuable as you were led to believe. We have all been arm twisted. We have all been tricked. We have all fallen for a gimmick. We have all done this. That is a huge part of sales baggage. In that is not what selling is. That is what sleazy selling is. That is what arm twisting is. But if we allow ourselves to go, well, in order to sell, I guess I have to play that game, you're going to carry that nastiness with you, either trying to make it work in your business and feeling terrible while you do it, or constantly resisting the sale because you feel like that's what you have to do, right? Number one, sales baggage is all the times you've been sold too badly yourself. Those aren't your fault, but that's also not what selling is. The other form is, okay, my first sales job ever, I was 16 years old. I had to wear a nurse's uniform, and I sold extremely expensive baby dolls. And what the gimmick of the store was that I would go in and have like a health inspection followed by like an adoption ceremony. It was really weird.
I was going to say, I have no idea how those two things align, but okay.
It was the weirdest job that a 16-year-old could have, understanding that most 16-year-olds have really weird jobs, right? Like, it was so weird. But his thing, and I had to call him Dr. Bob.
Oh my.
And not a doctor. Okay. But Dr. Bob's thing was always be upselling. Always. Always. If they want this doll, why not get twins? If they buy one outfit, why not 5? Right? And I hated that. I hated being like, happy birthday, little girl. Your parents just brought in all your friends for a birthday party, and now I'm basically going to make the parents feel cheap because they only bought you one outfit. I hated that. I mean, I hated that job for all the other reasons that we already talked about, but I was 16 years old and just wanted little kids to have great birthday parties. And instead, I'm like making them look cheap. Their parents look cheap in front of their kids. Ew. That is sales baggage. That is me selling something that I did not particularly believe in or care for in methods that were not right, but that my bosses required.
Isn't that crazy?
I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Well, and we all have like I've done a lot of like promo modeling over the years. And so I have a lot of and I wasn't even necessarily selling something. I was just there to help promote the brand, but I didn't even really fully align with the brand.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to sell stuff that we're not aligned with. That's a job,
For sure.
right? But also like, okay, so fast forward, I don't know, 5 something, no, 16. I don't know, almost a decade in the future, maybe aroundish, give or take. I am working in a bar basement selling happy hour parties that are really a marketing gimmick, and it is my job to make a gajillion calls the same day, same call, same script, even though I would always try to find a way to put like the word platypus in it just to keep myself from falling asleep at my desk. But then it was like, you are supposed to make this happy hour party seem like the single greatest thing that this person has ever experienced. And it was like a pretty good time, don't get me wrong, but like it's a microwaved buffet and some like well drink specials or beer. Like, okay, cool. Thanks for like the 2 free beers or whatever it is I get. But like, who cares, right? But I would have to call these people and be like, oh my God, Joanne, you won a happy hour party. And I hated that because I was like, why do I have to be so enthusiastic about something that's just okay? Couldn't I just call and be like, hey, we'd love to have you come back into the bar. Your next 2 drinks are on us. Please bring friends. Would that not have been easier? Would that not have been more honest? Again, that sales baggage, because what happened was when I went off on my own, and I wound up being also at one weird point in my other weird life, the director of marketing and sales for a software firm, where I'm like, okay, we're going to deliver this to you on time. We're totally not going to blow your budget. And we always did. And I could never control that I took all of that nastiness with me, all of that hesitation, all of that feeling, all of that fakeness, all of that overenthusiasm, all of that spiel, all of that dumping. And I thought that that's what selling was. And so when it came time to sell myself to people, it felt freaking horrible because all I knew how to do was upsell against people's will, break them down into thinking that they were cheap, convince them that this thing that's pretty mediocre is the best thing that they're ever going to get, arm twist them into coming in, you know, or sell them, work for coaches who tell them, well, you know, do you always want to be a poor fat slob? Why don't you go put this on your credit card? Your husband doesn't even need to know. Whoa. How am I going to show up in integrity and authenticity and sell like that? You don't have to. That's sales baggage.
That's a lot. And I'm just like going through my mind of all of the moments where I've experienced any of those scenarios that you just said. And like I said earlier, we all have a lot of those things. But I think much like with any kind of coaching, it's like just creating awareness around those and like, especially as a business owner, and then addressing that and saying, okay, that's not how I want to be. So what can I do to make this different, you know, versus those other sleazy sales tactics we talked about earlier.
Being able to sell something that you believe in is a gift. It's an opportunity, right? It's the opportunity to show up and provide the service that so many of us are dedicated to. It is an opportunity to act on our calling and receive for it. That is gorgeous. It is an entirely different thing to be able to say, hey, I want to give this to you. I deeply believe in it. I stand by it. And the price for it is this. That is a wholly different world than, well, you went with the cheapest birthday party package. So like, so-and-so was here last week and her parents bought this, and this. And like, look, she's not even really having that good of a time. Totally different ballgame. Entirely different universe. It's not the same. So if you are lucky enough to be selling something that you believe in, understand that everything that you have learned about the manipulation and the nastiness, none of that is required of you anymore. But what is required of you is a willingness to ask, a willingness to put yourself out there, and a willingness to receive. That's it.
And you make it so simple. You touched on it, and this is before, like, as we're kind of, moving into wrapping up, I really would love, because you share with me in your form, you said, I got stuck in the hamster wheel of constant marketing to cover up the truth that I wasn't comfortable with money or selling.
Yep.
As long as I could have a giant to-do list, I gave myself credit for working. And let me tell you, that's like a lot of people that I know. So I want you, for the last little bit of insight that you could share, how can people get comfortable with just like making the ask? You've talked a lot about some other things that they can do, kind of the mindset shifts working up to that, but how can they simply make the ask?
Okay. Remember, listen. Here's the formula. Listen on the call or whatever it is. If it's not a call, do your research, read their emails carefully, right? Whatever it is, do whatever form of listening is available to you, right? Find out what they really need. Number one, listen. Then I want you all to learn this phrase that is the most profitable phrase I have ever used in my life. Here we go. Here it is. Based on what you just told me. Based on what you just told me on this call, I believe that the right thing for you to do is this, and the price for this is that. How does that land on you? And then shut up. Ready? That's it again. You're going to listen and prescribe. You're going to listen. You're going to take notes. You're going to write those notes down in their own words, right? Did you notice before when I was like, that's why we watch Outlander? I'm bringing it back, right? I'm showing familiarity. I'm showing that I'm listening, right?
Yep.
Listen, prescribe. Based on what you just told me, of everything that I offer, I think the right choice for you would be this. Or if you only offer one thing, based on what you just told me, I do think we're a great match.
Yeah.
And here's why. And what I would assign to you or ask you to participate in or ask you to commit to today is this. And here's why. Again, based on what you just told me. You told me that you hate group programs, so I'm not even going to ask you to do that. But based on what you told me about your needs, I think we should have an intensive half day. Just me and you, no group element. How does that land on you? That's it. That's all it is. There's a little piece in the middle there where I go, I think you should have a VIP half day. And the price for that is $3,200. How does that land on you? Is that about what you were expecting to spend?
I'm just sitting here. It's like almost taking my breath away, which sounds really silly, but it's like, it's so easy. It's so simple. It's not easy.
It's so simple. And there is no sleaze involved. I am saying facts and facts only. Mm-hmm. The fact of what you told me you need, the facts of what I provide, the facts of those price, the facts of the other currencies, the energy involved, the time involved. For a lot of people, those are more important contributions than the money part.
Yeah.
Right? How much time is this going to take? How hard is this going to be? That perceived effort part of it, right? Mm-hmm. I say the facts of what I'm asking them to do. I say the facts of what I am prepared to deliver to them. I tell them the price for those things. I ask a question to put it back on them and to help their thinking. And then I shut my mouth.
Mm. Yeah, because like you were saying earlier, we apologize or we try to, oh gosh, I'm losing all my words today. Explain it away, right? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, here's what I used to do, and here's what I hear a lot. And this is that sales vomit I was talking about. Ready? Mm-hmm. So a VIP day is $3,200. But you know what, Joanne, like you just had me on your podcast and I'm going to get exposure from that. And like, my friend, last year during COVID, like everything was like, okay, so my rate last year was supposed to be $4,000, but really it's only $32,000. So it is a discount, but also I understand that you have a lot going on. So, how about we do this? You know what? The half day? No, that's probably too expensive. Why don't we just start with a single session? How about we start with a single session? It's $115. Okay.
Oh yeah. I have definitely been there a couple of times.
Right. Again, no judgment. I can say that with that accuracy because I used to do that all the time.
And so many people still do. And that is why you are amazing at what you do and what you offer, because so many people it's making the ask is the hardest part. We can listen and we can invest in the other person and we can try to regurgitate things back to them. But at the end of the day, it's like we're not comfortable making the ask. So I think that was incredibly helpful, just pivoting it back onto them and just saying, based on what you just told me, and then also assuring that you guys are a great fit. So that's fantastic advice. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So Annie, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about where we can find you online if people want to work with you. I know you also have the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and of course, where they can follow along with you online.
So everything in my internet world revolves around my website, anniePruggles.com. And what you'll find there is my free masterclass called Making Selling Easy Without Getting Sleazy. It's like 50 minutes of gems, I've been told, and I firmly believe. So that's there. That's free. Get on there and take that. If you consider yourself a highly empathic person, there's a quiz there called Hey Empath, is your special skill killing your business? Spoiler, it's not, but it has some actionable advice on how to work with your empathy instead of it against you. You will also find the home of my podcast, Too Legitimate to Quit, instantly actionable small business strategies with a pop culture spin. All episodes of that are available on my website and wherever you listen to podcasts. And then if you're really ready to jump in and sell from a place that feels like a win to you and to your client, if you're ready to do all of that hard work, to put it all into action of receiving, to say, I'm going to put myself out there, if you're ready to take a big old leap, you can also find out about my signature program, Sales for Empaths, which is a program but runs like a membership specifically designed to help do-gooders like coaches and healers do exactly what we talked about today, which is deliver that value and receive.
Awesome. And I will also link all of those links in the show notes and link to your website and all the things so people can find out about the various programs and get it on your masterclass. And yeah, Annie, this was, I know that I certainly struggle with sales, and there's a lot of things that we're all a work in progress, right? We're constantly refining our skills and working through our mindset and all of those different things. But I know that based on a lot of what you shared today, that this episode is going to be tremendously helpful, especially for a lot of coaches that I know. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your energy and your enthusiasm. It was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to rant at your people.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the You Empowered podcast. If you love this episode, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe so other individuals just like you can find out about the podcast. Last but not least, if you want to show your support for the podcast, you can now make a contribution via Ko-fi. You can find all of these links and more in the show notes. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are worthy. Thanks for listening.